really was determined to free Sharonda Jones as if it were my own life, because it was.
We know you from getting people free. Sharonda Jones, Corey Jacobs, Chris Young. There's literally a list.
I had no idea how to practice criminal law at all.
You practically had to teach yourself.
Yes.
So you're working major merger acquisitions and then cracking open these books and learning at night.
I worked very hard to free my clients, but there was also this element of manifestation where I believe they would be free.
Yeah.
And even with lawyers I train now, I'm like, every word in this motion that you type it with the intention of freedom.
Welcome to another episode of The Policy Plug. This is your boy, Breon Wells. So listen, again, we always want to thank those of you who've been journeying with us, the Policy Plug family. We hope that you're continuing to find this liberating, empowering, enjoying as we talk about not just policy, but how it touches every aspect of life. We are excited about today's episode. The thing on my mind today is economic empowerment. The importance of liberation, the importance of freedom. And often when we think about it, yes, we think about physical incarceration, but there's also mental incarceration. There's financial incarceration. But nothing feels better than getting to that space of economic freedom. It gives you mobility. It gives you the strength to be able to do the visions that's in your mind. And yes, there are policy implications that help facilitate that. I'm extremely excited about this episode because I have a very, 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 very special guest on. I call her my sister, my friend, and my client in that order. The one, the only, Brittany K. Barnett. Let's clap it up for a Policy Plug fan. Hey!
Hey!
Hey! Welcome to the Policy Plug.
Thank you for having me. It's
Absolutely.
a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, look, and this is technically your second time on the Policy Plug, fam, because way back when we were on Clubhouse, we had a very powerful discussion on Clubhouse with you and Corey Jacobs. And we were talking about freedom, from incarceration, definitely. And we'll touch a little bit on that today. But how you feeling?
I feel good.
Good.
I feel good, yeah.
Good. So listen, for those that might not know you, because there's so many facets, I often think about it. You and I talk about it a lot, that there's layers to people. Like sometimes we see people who are visible. And I would say definitely you are one of those visible and growing visible people, but we see one facet and one lane, but there's so many layers, right? There's so many things that we represent. So for our audience that might not know you, who is Brittany Barnett? Like, where do you hail from?
I hail from the South, the rural South. At that, I used to say I'm just a small town country girl with big city dreams. I grew up in rural East Texas, a very small town with less than 1,200
Okay.
people. One of those towns where everybody knows
Everybody.
And literally 24 students in my class. 2 of us were Black, and the other Black student was my cousin.
So y'all it was all in the vet. Listen.
It was just a very small town. One of those doors wide open, windows unlocked pieces of rural East Texas, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
A class of 24.
Class of 24.
That was the graduating class?
Well, the graduating class was 48.
Okay.
Because you merge with the next town for high school.
Wow. And that was in Texas?
Yes.
Okay. Y'all do everything big in Texas. Y'all do everything big. And then, for those that haven't been, they fry everything. Like I had my first fried butter.
Oh, everything.
If it's alive, it can be fried. If it's a thing, y'all will fry that bad boy.
Especially during this time of the year at the Texas State Fair, they just make up things to fry.
Yeah. You love the Texas State Fair?
It's cool.
Okay.
It's cool.
Okay. And so you grew up in Texas. I know you and I have talked a lot about your grandmother. Real pivotal character in your life, real pivotal force. Just kind of take us into that relationship, because I can even see, as I've gotten to know you, some of the fruit of the words of wisdom she's imparted to you.
Yeah, my grandmother was everything to me. I called her mama. She helped raise me. My parents were very young when I was born, and my grandmother and I were very close. And, it's just something so soothing about grandmothers.
Mm,
And I just think of her hands all the time. I think there's, a book called My
yeah,
Grandmother's Hands, and just the healing nature of them. It's just something just medicinal about her Sunday dinners and being with the fam and laughing and joking. And she's truly a guiding force in
yeah.
my life. She ascended this earth in 2018,
Okay.
and that's something that we grieved, but her energy is all around us and it's just so beautiful. And so I really work to just honor her in her life and in everything that I do. She was a remarkable, phenomenal Black woman from the South. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, like all of my guests, you're degreed down. And I mean, the paper, you got the paper. So where'd you go to undergrad?
I went to undergrad in Texas at the
Okay.
University of Texas at Arlington. I graduated high school a year early. So I was 17.
Come on, Black excellence. You're
I
early.
was 17 and going to University of Texas, and I was so overwhelmed by the campus and the college. And I got to University of Texas at Arlington, and they just had a renowned accounting program.
Okay.
So I majored in accounting there and got a bachelor's in accounting there and a master's in accounting.
Okay.
There. Yeah.
And then you went from there to the bachelor's in accounting, the master's in accounting. We know you as a lawyer. Take us through that journey. Because, one, there's always a need for diversity in every field, but especially in the legal profession.
Exactly.
Texas, especially, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I know Houston has a slew of like Black judges, Black DAs, Black women that are kind of in that legal ecosphere, but we still have a lot of work to do. So I don't want to overlook the fact that, again, you are part of that population of brilliant Black legal talent that we need. But like, what made you want to even consider going to law school?
As cliche as it may sound, I always wanted to be a lawyer growing up. I wanted to be like Claire Huxtable on
Okay.
The Cosby Show.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there were hardly any lawyers in rural East Texas where I grew up, and there certainly weren't any lawyers who looked like me. It's one of those towns and counties where the district attorney is elected every year for 35 years, until they decide not to run anymore. And so I started to feel like becoming a lawyer was out of my league, out of my reach, and in hindsight, I realized it was because I didn't know any, and it shows how important representation is.
Yeah.
And I was in high school and I read a book by B.B. Moore Campbell called Brothers and Sisters. And in the book, the protagonist was a Black woman and she worked at a bank. And it seemed like she had a nice life from the book. So I said, I'm going to go work at a bank. And I majored in finance, and a mentor in undergrad said, Brittany, you should change your major to accounting because it's more 360. And so I did. I didn't ask questions. I did. And I was studying after I graduated college for the CPA exam.
Okay.
So I became a certified public accountant, was working at PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is one of the big 4 accounting firms, and still had this dream of becoming a lawyer. And the same mentor who told me to change my major to accounting, I was borrowing his books to study for the CPA exam. My mother was incarcerated at the time and young adult, trying to take care of my sister. I needed help to buy the review materials. And you know how sometimes you have this idea, you just kind of run it by someone you're close to just to see what they'll say. And I was getting the books from him and I said, Ken, I'm thinking about going to law school. And he said, oh, Brittany, you should definitely go to law school. He said, I'm actually starting law school at SMU in Dallas in the fall. And I was so happy for Ken, but I also remember leaving his house and thinking, oh, wait a minute, if Ken can go to law school, I know I can go to law school. And that really shifted my mentality and perspective of being proximate to someone who had gone through the process, was accepted into law school.
Yeah.
And here he was encouraging me to do the same. And so I finished taking the CPA exam and set my sights on becoming a lawyer.
Okay. Okay. And so then when you went to law school, that was at SMU?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What was the journey like actually going through law school?
The journey going through law school was extremely challenging. For me, especially Black law students, many of us didn't have parents or uncles or aunts or friends of our family who were lawyers who could give us that guidance and kind of walk us through. So I joined the Black Law Student Association my first year of law school to really be a part of a family, of Black law students who could help each other. And that's what we did. So it was very challenging. You're taught a different way how to think. And I had already been a professional, if you will, for a couple of years. And so that helped me a little, be more mature in the process. And kind of have my sights set on knowing I wanted to practice corporate law because I was an accountant. It just seemed like a natural gravitation. But it was a very challenging period, especially the first year of getting in your groove and finding that discipline. But it worked out, and I got a job the summer after my first year of law school, and they gave me an offer to come back when I graduated 2 years later.
Okay.
So with that, I was set a little bit. And I used that opportunity, though, to start just taking classes that were interesting to me. And I'd always had an interest in the criminal legal system and just how it works and things of that nature. So I started taking more classes that related to criminal justice.
Okay.
If you will.
Okay. And so then, and I promise y'all, we're going to get to the humanizing elements here in a minute, but this Brittany's story is fascinating. And I know elements of it, and it's still fascinating to me. So we probably from getting people free, Sharonda Jones, Corey Jacobs, Chris Young, Tony Lewis Sr. I mean, there's literally a list, and we could go on. You were a whole corporate lawyer before that, and don't give out everything because y'all need to cop that book, A Knock at Midnight. Shameless plug. Y'all get that book to see a little more of the inside journey. However, just kind of take us a little glimpse behind that jump from you're a whole corporate attorney doing merger acquisitions, these big deals. Like, how did we get to this space that what we know you as predominantly is unlocking chains?
So I went through law school, taking the criminal legal class, and came across Sharonda Jones's case. And I just wanted to do something to help her. I had no idea how to practice criminal law at all, but I knew that here was a woman serving a life sentence in prison, and I wanted to help her be free. And so even though I went on to practice corporate law, I would work pro bono in the evenings to free Sharonda Jones, to teach myself all that I could about criminal law and work to free Sharonda from this unjust life sentence that she was serving in federal prison.
I'm sorry, let's pause right there. So you're working a whole 9 to 5.
9 to 9.
9 to 9. Look, let's get all them hours in. A 9 to 9 with major merger acquisitions, and then almost like going back to school, cracking open these books and learning at night.
Yes.
Would you say a lot of because I've seen firsthand, it feels like the tools that you use, sure, you use the law, but it feels like the innovation, the strategies you come with somewhat hit different. Is that because you practically had to teach yourself the ins and outs? Is that where that comes from?
That's a really great point. I've never looked at it like that, but yes, that's part of it. And the other part is just this human element of it. My mother was incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
It is devastating to have any loved one incarcerated, but I know from firsthand experience that when it's your mama, it's a primal wound. And so that personal experience brought me very proximate to this issue of incarceration in America, especially as it pertains to women. And so Sharonda Jones was also a Black daughter of the rural South, like me. And I just saw so much of myself in her. You know, I really was determined to fight to free Sharonda Jones as if it were my own life, because it was. We're all so
Mm,
connected, you know, in this way. Sharonda, I met her. She was just such a remarkable woman whose smile could light up any room. And here she was serving a life sentence for a federal drug offense, her first conviction, felony or otherwise.
right.
And I wanted to do something about it. I didn't know what to do, but I wanted to do something about it. And so I learned that Sharonda's only option to ever have the potential of breathing free air again was clemency from the president of the United States. And so, yes, I would move almost $1 billion deals, sometimes $1 billion deals by day, and work by night to free Sharonda Jones and other people whose cases I had taken on pro bono.
Wow. So here at the Policy Plug, we, the tagline is this the space where we humanize the people who influence policy. And that's because, one, our main point is that everybody has the ability to show up at the policy table. But then number two, a lot of our guests that we have on are the ones that are already influencing policy. And you are clearly no exception to that. We try to build this connection then so that they can see it. So roll with me real quick. We're at the 50th anniversary of hip hop.
Mm.
And in fact, you and I were recently at a concert chopping it up with Monica and Rick Ross and seeing all the things. And in DC, shout out to Go-Go. We had a little flavor of Go-Go.
Sure.
Loud music, but we love it. We love it.
Love it.
As we're looking at the 50th anniversary of hip hop, is there an artist, your favorite artist or artists that come to mind?
Oh, I have a few. I am a huge Tupac fan.
Okay.
And he will just forever live on, in my opinion, for his art, through music, his art through words and poetry, the art of his life. And it's just so beautiful to me. So, yes, he definitely is at the top of my list any day. Living, I have a lot. I love hip hop artists from the South. There's just nothing like that swag, that walk, that talk, none of it. So I wouldn't be able to choose a favorite from there. But if I was listening to I'm old school, so it's always, can never sleep on Cash Money, can never sleep on No Limit, and I never will sleep on them. So yeah.
We had another guest that won't be named right now that said they were going to do a slip and slide tour. They wanted Trick Daddy, Trina, and Rick Ross all in one. If they could just have a whole...
They have to be from the South too, whoever that is. So I'm sticking with Southern artists. Welcome Home BG from Cash Money was just recently released from serving his time. So looking forward to seeing what art he'll put into the world.
Absolutely. As long as I've known you, you've always been a reader. What book are you reading right now that's getting you through?
Oh, I have been reading Toni Morrison.
Okay, you've been revisiting.
And when I tell you the brilliance in every sentence that she writes, and her fiction novels are just so culturally relatable, even though they were written in a different time and about different times. And people, the characters in her novels are going through challenging times and dealing with challenging things inside themselves. But it's the beauty of Black people that Toni brings to life on each page that's really resonating with me these days. And so I am loving revisiting Toni. So I'm rereading Song of Solomon.
Okay. Right now, okay. Yeah. Do you find, and I'm personally inquisitive about this, do you find that now that you have written a book that it hits different than when you read Toni's stuff?
Absolutely. I have such a newfound appreciation for writers. I've always adored writers, but I have this newfound appreciation and admiration for them because it is a lot of work. It is an art
Okay.
form, you
Yeah.
know? And as I learned more writing my book about scene work and character development and really understanding the rhythm of sentences, she is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Toni Morrison was one of one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You and I always talk about owning our own private islands. We're gonna island hop when it's like outside's getting to be a lot too much right now. Y'all be blessed with whatever that is that y'all got going on. But till that time,
we're here.
Right. Till that time, we're here. If there's one space that you could go for a vacation, where would that be and why?
In the world?
Yes, in the world.
Oh.
We on the map.
It would have to be on the continent of Africa.
Okay.
So I was very, very fortunate to visit Kigali, Rwanda this year, and Egypt. And it's just so much more of the motherland to explore and to really tie our roots to, And I don't have a specific country, in mind because I want to visit many of them, but it would definitely be somewhere on the motherland and truly just to have fun and to rest and to live. We work so much and we sometimes forget to breathe. For real. And so, just that time to let my hair down or my braids down, whatever's happening, and just chill and be in the mix. Yeah.
Okay. So, and thank you for that. I feel like, that was a good connecting point because I think a lot of people can relate, and I'm hearing more and more people wanting to go and visit the continent of Africa. It feels like there's always a relevancy, but there seems to be an urgency lately on really getting on the continent. Ever since I've known you, and in fact, you were the one that coined this phrase, in case people have been saying it, there is nothing more urgent than freedom. Nothing more urgent than freedom. And when you and I met, of course, the context of that, as I took it, was in there's people that got life without parole. That is such a heinous practice because then it says that you can't be redeemed, that there's no hope for you. And so it associated this urgency of doing whatever it takes to help secure someone else's freedom. Two things I want you to kind of talk about in this journey then. One, the first, I've heard you say that as you were freeing your clients, you were freeing yourself.
They were freeing me.
And they were freeing you through that journey. I want to unpack that. But then that second part, I think, of the concept I want to look at, you now have this concept, this entity, manifest freedom. So we've started with there's nothing more urgent than freedom. And I'm learning that this manifest freedom is something connected, but it has this whole different world and element to it. So, kind of unpack for us first how your clients, when you say your clients were freeing you as you were really toiling for them, what was that like?
Meeting my clients the way that I did, especially early on when I was a corporate lawyer, was just divine, Breon. Honestly, I was not a criminal defense lawyer. I still don't look at myself as a criminal defense lawyer. And so I didn't have a shingle out soliciting clients, and they came to me in such a divine way. I came across Sharonda's case in law school on a YouTube video. Other people wrote me after hearing about it, like Corey Jacobs. But for Sharonda to stay so positive in the face of adversity that would be unbearable for many people was freeing to me. For Corey Jacobs to meditate daily in the face of adversity that would be unbearable for many people and then teach me the gift of meditation, that was freeing to me. For Chris Young to think about the cosmos and quantum physics and ways to help solve mental health issues that plague the Black community while in a cell serving a natural life sentence, that was freeing to me. For Tony Lewis to endure 34 years of incarceration, standing tall with his back straight.
Yeah.
That was freeing to me. And so taking bits and pieces of each one of them was very freeing to me, and their determination to hold on to their humanity in the space of a system designed to strip it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was very
That's
powerful
right.
and freeing to me. And their belief. You know, my dad was very young when I was born, but he always taught to me about the power of our minds and the power of manifestation and the power of writing our own scripts. And when I was younger, I would say, you know, I'm going to go to this college, or I want to be this when I grow up. And he'd say, Brittany, write it down and make it plain. You know, if you're going to go to this college, what's the weather going to be like your first day on campus? What are you going to be wearing? And where are you going to be staying? And
So
what
be
job
very
are you going to be?
detailed and
Very
specific.
detailed. And it was so annoying to me as a teenager. Very much so. But I would do it, you know, and I didn't understand it as much as I do now. And I worked very hard to free my clients, very hard. But there was also this element of manifestation where I believe they would be free.
Yeah.
No matter what. And even with lawyers I train now, young lawyers, older lawyers, I'm like, every word in this motion that you type it with the intention of freedom. Every single word.
That's good. That's
and
good.
I tell them that, and we have to believe it, you know, with conviction in our hearts. And you know, it ties just back to the simple definition of faith. You know, we believe in things we cannot see. And so that, you know, that's how they were freeing me. And it was just a beautiful journey. And I don't even look at, you know, Sharon and Corey and all them as my clients anymore. We are a family. And they taught me so much. I mean, even Corey and the power of meditation was just, I mean, it's just amazing to me. And they're all just brilliant minds.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. You said faith, and it stirred me to your pet. You know, I'm a whole fan of your pastor.
Me too.
The Freddie Haynes. No one writes an open letter as quick, as convicting as the Pastor Freddie Haynes, who is now also the leader of Rainbow Push Coalition.
Absolutely. So excited for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I've admired about him is he's always been a conscious church, is what I'll say. Like, not just, you know, let's get ready for heaven, but like, here's how we can impact the earth here. And here's how we can impact the earth through social justice and through policy. And that happens to be your pastor. Yes. And I can just see so many elements with what you already came equipped with. And then like being part of a faith community that supported those different aspects.
Much so early on, I mean, he gave me space and time, you know, at Friendship West Baptist Church in Dallas to speak from the pulpit about Sharonda Jones and collect signatures about Sharonda Jones. He wrote letters years ago, you know, and there was a time that came where I decided to resign from corporate law, as you know, to truly follow my passion to transform unjust systems. And it was not an easy decision to make, to leave such a comfortable career, such a lucrative career, and a career that I really enjoyed.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
Oftentimes I was the only woman in the C-suite boardrooms, and every time I was the only Black person in the room. And I remember coming to the conclusion that I wanted to fly from the comfort of the corporate nest and thinking about financial security, and my mom, who's, you know, free now and doing amazing. And I was talking to my dad about it, and my dad said, Brittany, stop worrying about the challenges and imagine the possibilities instead. And it was so freeing for me, you know, and I knew then what I had to do. And the next morning, I was going to resign, and I texted Pastor Haynes and let him know. And he called me immediately, and it's early. It's like 7:30 in the morning. And the first thing he said when I answered the phone, he said, "Are you at peace?"
Wow.
And my immediate response was yes. And he prayed, you know, and you know, the rest is history. But
That's beautiful.
I would be remiss to say to not mention him and people in the village.
Yeah. So talk to us about Manifest Freedom. I remember when you were thinking about it, you know, I was privileged to be, I feel there in like, as it was transpiring and being a thing. And one of the things that you said that stands with me, and will continue to stand with me is, you were basically saying that you were happy that you had freed these people, but what are we freeing them into?
Yeah.
Like, sure, we're getting them out of physical incarceration, but if it's these other manifestations of incarceration, what are we doing? Kind of talk to us about Manifest Freedom. What is it? What is? Yeah.
So Manifest Freedom is an initiative that I founded, the Manifest Freedom Foundation, to empower entrepreneurs who have been impacted by the criminal legal system with the capital and resources they need to flourish. You know, Manifest Freedom creates a space for entrepreneurs, a space that surpasses mere survival. We have to create more spaces that surpass mere survival, and to do it in a way that is free and allows people to dream. You know, the capital that we give, you know, I believe it's significant capital, and I wish it could be more. It will be more one day, and I call it dream capital. And to give people
Let's
that
go
space.
back. So you're thinking, and when you say capital, you all are providing grants.
Absolutely.
To these formerly incarcerated, justice impacted individuals, folks, you know, in hope from the South that are here and need that economic leverage. And the name of it is Dream Capital.
I'm calling it Dream Capital.
I love this. I love it.
Yes. And it's, you know, some of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life have been my clients, and I do not say that lightly. And literal people who could come out and run Fortune 500 companies. Yeah. And what I was learning was they are entrepreneurs, you know, and they were entrepreneurs before, you know, entrepreneurs now. And how can I help their dreams manifest? And looking at it in a way, Brianna, I'm always pondering my highest and best use on this earth as a human being. And what I'm learning and accepting is that highest and best use can evolve over time, and that's okay. And I learned that I was in a season to physically free people from prison. And I did that, you know, myself, my organization, the Buried Alive Project. We freed over 60 men and women who were serving life sentences in federal prison.
Let's not gloss over that number. Say that again.
We have freed over 60 men and women who were serving fundamental death sentences in federal prison under these unjust, outdated, draconian federal drug laws. And start to learn and think through ways of, again, what are we freeing them into? And I would free one person, and it takes years. It took me 6 years to free Sharonda Jones. This is not overnight.
Right.
You know, and it's lots of work that goes into this. And, you know, you're freeing one person, and because of policies, 10 more people are going same day. Yeah. And I just started to think of, what is my highest and best use? How is this evolving? And, you know, I was tired. I was tired of freeing people from prison and restoring them to poverty, and thinking through, how can I bridge that gap with my corporate experience and all this schooling that I did and have, and my passion, you know, for this space. And from that, you know, Manifest Freedom was born.
That never gets old to me. That never gets old, because I think sometimes we can get to a space where we can achieve victories, and then we stay stuck in that victorious mode. Yeah. And sometimes we don't realize there's more, and there's an abundance, and not necessarily even just more work, right, that needs to be done, but there's more victory.
Right.
Right? There's higher levels of elevation, of success. And if we're so caught up in being satisfied only with here's what I had. And I think that inspires me because, again, 60 plus people, you could have been like, so we're good. Y'all be blessed. Let me go have my own private island today. But you're constantly forward thinking about what the next step is. And it's not like you're just hopping from project to project. As I've known you, freedom has been the consistent narrative, kind of the North Star. Would it be fair for me to say freedom has been like the North Star for you?
I will forever be committed to freedom. The ways in which I show up for that commitment has evolved and will continue to evolve, I'm sure. I just believe in this notion of what I call sustainable liberation for people. And that sustainable liberation, it has to include, it must include economic freedom, economic empowerment, and equity, and ensuring that people who've been impacted by this criminal legal system in America have a seat at the table, that they're centered, and that they are empowered to lead. We need policy change. We root for that, but I also believe that freedom is multidimensional. And, this systemic change doesn't always have to come from Capitol Hill or state legislators. The people that we're freeing, the people that we're empowering with Dream Capital are creating systemic change in the way they live their lives and the people they are hiring. Because guess who the first people they are going to hire will be?
That's right. That's right.
Other formerly incarcerated people.
That's right.
And
that's
so
right.
I think there just has to be this holistic approach to shift the narrative. And going back to what my dad would say, I'm taking the pen back and I'm rewriting the script to shift the narrative and to show this world, America, that does not even believe that formerly incarcerated people have the capacity to bring great things into this world. We are going to show them that they do.
Yeah.
They can.
That's right.
And they will.
That's right.
And many of these beautiful people are already doing that,
Yeah. Let's delve real quick in the policy space. And you've already alluded the power of policy. Yeah. As you just mentioned, some of the things we do know, formerly incarcerated and justice impacted entrepreneurs are most likely to hire other formerly incarcerated and justice impacted people. And part of that is probably because collateral consequences. Yeah. And for those that don't know what collateral consequences are, they are barriers, obstructions where even once you get free physically, we still have this somewhat lingering need of this debt that you still owe. So that often comes in the form of obstructions for housing, obstruction barriers to employment, obstruction barriers to education. These things, voting, the right to vote. These are the collateral consequences. And we found during the pandemic then that the government had on the books these obstructions when everyone was getting, that Paycheck Protection Program loans, that formerly incarcerated and justice impacted individuals, first, it was very vague and in some cases outright deliberate. You don't have eligibility. But then they had, and they still have what's this 20%. If you have somebody that's currently incarcerated that is a business partner and they own 20% or more in leadership and stakeholdership, then that would make your business ineligible of the Small Business Administration's loans. As we think about what economic empowerment means and could mean, because when we're calling ourselves being punitive on these individuals, you're actually also being punitive on their family, children, grandma, auntie and them, spouses, the whole block, the whole community is suffering. What, in your mind, your personal opinion, what sort of things could, like either the federal government or even the state government, how can they show themselves up to be good partners in this time to make sure that they are embodying what it means to manifest freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. Removing those barriers that you mentioned. Why are they there?
Right.
Why are they there?
That's a wonderful question.
And then, removing those barriers to access capital, is very, very important for anybody, and especially, people who've been impacted by the criminal legal system and the entrepreneurs. There's so many barriers in place to employment, as you mentioned. And oftentimes their only option is entrepreneurship, and people who have been formerly incarcerated, they are 3 to 4 times more likely to go back to prison if they can't find employment. And
That's
what
right.
we're doing at Manifest Freedom is just creating more than that. Recidivism to ensure someone doesn't go back to prison is just such a low bar. We have to empower them with the capital they need. And so removing barriers that the SBA, has, for example, is one. Same with state and local governments, ensuring that for people who've been formerly incarcerated to become certified, small business owners, or being able to have access to local contracts, and economic opportunities to hire other people. It's very, very important that happens, and even through ways, we've talked about the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yep.
And opportunities for entrepreneurs and jobs that will create, and ensuring that robust opportunity created through the Inflation Reduction Act includes and does not exclude people who've been impacted by the criminal legal system. And so when every policy that we're creating that ties to and flows into economic empowerment, ensuring that those barriers are not in place.
Yeah.
People have served their time. In most cases of the people we've helped free, all of those cases, they've more than served the time.
That's right.
And yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and part of the things with policy as a lawyer, not to mention as a businesswoman helping entrepreneurs, is we're often forced to work within the bounds of laws that are outside the bounds of moral consciousness.
Yep.
And having that center of any policy, thinking through, what restrictions are in place and how does this practically impact real people, is very, very important. And so just ensuring that these policies center everybody and
Absolutely.
are very inclusive is so important, because that economic access, to capital is needed for all of us, just as impacted or not, but especially ensuring they're included.
Absolutely. You and I could talk for hours. I got 2 final questions. One, as I've seen your journey up close, I think one of the reasons, and I don't know that I've ever told you this, the reason I am like a ride or die Brittany fan, is because I can appreciate the success that you've had, because I've seen sometimes the sacrifices you had to make, and more importantly, the opportunities that could have come your way that either maybe weren't in alignment with where you wanted to go, or some of those were just outright raggedy and wrong, right? and you said no.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not an easy thing to do. Right. A lot of people, they see the story and they feel like it's just a series of yeses and yeses and yeses, and what God has for me is for me. But sometimes you have to be discerning.
Right.
Because what God has for you is for you, but everything ain't for you. Talk to us about the power of no. There's the yeses, yeah. But what would you say to liberate some of these other folks that are looking at good and big decisions that are in their face, and they're struggling with how to navigate that? How important was learning how to discern when to say yes versus no?
That is a very great question. And it's something, that has not been easy to make those decisions and walk away, from money, the capital that I'm talking about.
Right.
But it also, I've been very conscious and intentional of ensuring alignment, because I've been in situations where there wasn't
Okay.
alignment. And because of that, it on a more basic term, Breon, it doesn't even feel right in your body.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so you are going against what you know to be true. And I wanted to get out of this pattern of self-betrayal for not honoring my intuition. And so my gift to freedom.
I'm sorry. That has to be restated. We probably going to post that up on there. Say that again. Self-betrayal. You had to learn how to honor your own intuition. Yes. Like, stop betraying yourself.
Stop betraying yourself. I had to learn to understand that this self-betrayal of going against what I knew to be true, was not in direct alignment with my intuition. And that is a form of self-betrayal. That's not noble.
Yeah. Ooh, that's freeing somebody.
And so I had to learn that the hard way. And through those lessons, I am really intentional about, one, listening to my body. The answers are within us.
Yeah.
The answers within you. And really listening to my body and understanding that and learning that everything that glitters is not gold. And every opportunity is not the best opportunity for you. Yeah. It's not saying it's not a good opportunity.
Yeah.
It may just not be the best one for you. And being, what I learned through that process is just being very clear about what I want. And that can be very cloudy, at times. But I think, as I'm starting to slow down more, as I'm recovering from a very severe burnout, the vision is becoming clearer.
Got it. Yeah. That's wonderful. So, Brittany, here at the Policy Plug, we talk a lot, not just about policy, but its impact on humanity. And as you have freed a lot of people, often in these Washington streets at the federal level, why would you say policy matters to you?
Policy matters to me because people matter. And that is what is so important, is really centering that human element in each and every policy, that we implement. It's crucial.
Last question. To me, this whole thing has been a high note, but what brings you joy?
Freedom brings me joy. And in all senses of the words, we talked about, and I used to say there's nothing more urgent than freedom, and in the senses, in that context, related to freeing people from incarceration. And even as I think through the vision for my next book, which is called And Then She Freed Herself, this book is, like my last book, was a liberation song. This book is a liberation song as well. And there's still nothing more urgent than freedom.
Right.
This time, the freedom at stake is my own. And to me, in the world that we live in, there's nothing more joyous than a Black woman's freedom. So joy for me is freedom in all senses of the word.
That is beautiful. I got to clap. Let's clap it up for Brittany K. Barnett. Sis, I'm always amazed at just really how there's a lot of eloquent people, but it's clear that the words you say are matched with conviction and intentionality.
Thank you.
I love having you on this show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we definitely, you're not going to be a stranger. We may have to have you after this next book is out. So listen, podcast fam, listen, Policy Plug followers, we have just had I would say, liberating episode. That is my hope. We discuss sometimes the power of saying no. And as Brittany said, don't betray yourself. Don't do this self-betrayal. That internal voice that that intuition, whether you call it discernment, for some people that's God speaking to you, don't ignore that thing, because it's meant to lead you to the liberation that you deserve and the success that you're seeking. But then we also learned that you have to be passionate about whatever you're going to get into. I know I've experienced sometimes a whole career shift, going from everything to nothing. You heard from Brittany. She had a whole career shift going from everything to the unknown. But when you have that passion, it doesn't mean that there won't be hard and challenging days, but it makes it better and it makes it easier to navigate. And so, listen, I hope you were taking notes. I was taking some notes for myself. I'm going to be meditating on some of these things. This has been another wonderful episode of The Policy Plug. This is the space where we humanize the people who influence policy and we bring the policy to the people.